Imagine this. You stand at the edge of a stage, the spotlight blinding, the air electric with possibility. Behind the curtain, your name echoes, summoning you to step forward into a destiny you once begged the universe to grant. For years, you dreamed of this moment, rehearsed words in silence, promised yourself that if it ever came, you would rise. Yet now, with the stage trembling beneath your feet and the world waiting, your chest tightens, your throat locks. A whisper inside says, "Turn back." Why? Failure should terrify you. Failure carries humiliation, disappointment, shame. Yet somehow, you always survive it. When you fail, you retreat into the familiar, your excuses, your identity as the struggler, the underdog. People console you. Life moves on. You tell yourself, "At least I tried." But success is different. Success strips you bare, forcing you into the light. It demands you live up to your own potential. And in that brightness, suddenly, you tremble. Isn't it strange? You longed for this, yet part of you wishes the curtain would never rise. Could it be that deep inside, you fear success more than failure? At first, it sounds absurd. Who would prefer the sting of defeat over the sweetness of triumph? But think carefully. Success is not a trophy you hold. It is a mirror you cannot look away from. It shatters excuses, kills the illusion of smallness. Failure lets you remain a victim of circumstance. Success demands you become a creator of destiny. And creation, true creation, terrifies the human heart more than destruction ever could. So ask yourself, when you fantasize about achieving your dreams, do you picture smiling on the mountaintop, or do you secretly imagine stumbling before you get there? Do you feel a tightening in your stomach when you picture the life you say you want, as if some invisible hand whispers, "Not you. Stay small. Stay safe"? What if the real reason you sabotage progress is not lack of talent or opportunity, but unconscious terror of what success would demand? What if the chain holding you back is not fear of falling, but fear of flying? Failure is a known territory. You've walked through its ruins before, learned to navigate its rubble. But success, that is uncharted land. And the unknown has always been humanity's greatest terror. Success threatens to unravel the identity you've built around struggle. If success arrives, the story of someday ends. And if the story ends, who are you? Do you see the paradox? We crave success, yet cling to the narrative of striving. We imagine ourselves free, yet love the prison because its bars are familiar. We long for greatness, yet when it nears, we recoil, as though greatness itself were a predator hunting us down. So here you stand, at the edge of a choice. Remain in the shadows where excuses live comfortably, or step into the fire of your own becoming. One path feels safe, the other feels like annihilation. And here's the question that cuts deepest. Do you truly want success, or only the fantasy of it? Because success is not a crown placed gently on your head, it is a crucible. It demands you kill the version of yourself who survives on scraps and be reborn into someone vast, someone unrecognizable, someone you have secretly feared all along. And maybe that is why you hesitate. So before we uncover the roots of this fear, before we expose the psychological and philosophical forces that condition you to prefer failure, sit with this haunting contradiction. You do not fear falling as much as you fear rising. And the real question is, what is it about rising that feels like death? Why does rising feel like death? Why should the very possibility of success ignite panic in the soul? To answer this, we must travel inward, not to the external applause of the world, but into the architecture of the psyche itself. At first glance, success should liberate you. It promises freedom, status, fulfillment. But success is not an external event. It is an existential transformation, and transformation always begins with destruction. The you who survives on excuses must be annihilated so a greater self can emerge. In psychological terms, success requires ego death, the crumbling of the fragile identity you've built around struggle and limitation. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Success at its core is this acceptance at the highest level. It is the moment you declare, "I am capable, I am powerful, I am enough." But herein lies the paradox. Failure allows you to postpone this confrontation. Failure lets you keep living as a partial version of yourself. Success demands total exposure. Jung also warned of the shadow, the hidden, suppressed part of us. You may think you want success, but if your shadow is filled with self-doubt, unresolved shame, or fear of responsibility, then success threatens to drag those shadows into the light. And when the hidden collides with the public self, the tension is unbearable. Nietzsche offered a similar challenge. He spoke of the Übermensch, the human who dares to create their own values rather than follow the herd. Success in this sense is rebellion, the refusal to bow before mediocrity. But to rise above the herd is to risk envy, misunderstanding, isolation. Nietzsche's question cuts deep. Can you bear the solitude that comes with greatness? Here lies the problem. Failure keeps you in the herd. Success separates you. Failure bonds you with others in shared disappointment. Success alienates you in distinction. Failure lets you blame circumstance. Success leaves you responsible for your freedom. And freedom, as Sartre insisted, is not liberation, but burden. Man is condemned to be free. To succeed means stepping fully into that burden. Isn't it easier to remain in the comforting chains of failure? But this fear is not merely psychological, it is cultural. From childhood, you are trained not to succeed, but to conform. Schools reward obedience over brilliance. Families prefer stability over risk. Cultures applaud ambition in theory, but quietly resent those who embody it. Aldous Huxley warned that society does not fear failure, it fears individuality. And true success is individuality incarnate. Think of the subtle messages you absorbed. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't forget where you came from. Don't outshine others. The lesson was clear. Success is dangerous, lonely, arrogant. Better to stumble modestly than to rise unapologetically. This conditioning burrows deep until hesitation feels natural. You procrastinate, self-sabotage, stall, not from laziness, but because success feels like betrayal. Betrayal of your family, your culture, your fragile identity. And so, unconsciously, you shrink. You rationalize that you're not ready yet. You glorify effort while avoiding completion. You worship success from afar, but keep it locked in the realm of fantasy, where it cannot threaten your current self. But the truth is harsher. In avoiding success, you are not simply avoiding achievement, you are avoiding yourself. For success is not about the external prize, it is about internal transformation. To deny success is to deny your own fullness. Viktor Frankl, who endured the horrors of the camps, observed that humans can endure any suffering if they have meaning. But when success comes, meaning shifts. It demands you ask, what now? Success multiplies responsibility, multiplying the struggle rather than ending it. This is why the hidden problem is not lack of opportunity or skill, it is existential fear. The fear of freedom, of exposure, of becoming something you can no longer hide from. You long for the crown, yet dread the beheading of your old self it requires. You crave the summit, yet fear the solitude at the top. You dream of light, yet tremble at burning in it. So the root is clear. Success is not resisted because it is unattainable, but because it feels unbearable. The psyche protects itself from transformation just as the body recoils from pain. Until you expose this mechanism, you will continue to choose failure, disguised as safety. But what happens when you keep choosing failure? What happens when an entire culture chooses it? The consequences reach farther than you imagine, and it is those consequences we must confront next. So far, you've uncovered the paradox. Success feels heavier, more dangerous, more annihilating than failure. But this fear doesn't stay hidden inside. It shapes your choices, your future, even society itself. Think about the countless dreams buried not in graveyards, but in ordinary routines. The novels never written, the businesses never launched, the revolutions never led, not because people lacked ability, but because they secretly preferred the safety of failure over the terror of triumph. How many ideas remained locked in notebooks because their creator feared responsibility? How many relationships stayed shallow because true intimacy, success in love, was too frightening? This is the unseen consequence. Lives half-lived, histories unfinished, generations inheriting the weight of unfulfilled potential. On a personal level, it shows up in subtle ways. Procrastination, for example, isn't always laziness. Often, it's fear of completion. To finish something means exposing it to the world, and exposure means recognition. Recognition means responsibility. And responsibility is what the unconscious resists. The student delaying their thesis, the artist endlessly tweaking a painting, the entrepreneur refining an idea instead of launching it. These are not perfectionists, but fugitives. The moment success becomes real, the self must change. And change feels dangerous. Neurology sharpens the picture. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, responds not only to threats of harm, but to uncertainty. Success, by definition, is uncertain. It opens doors you've never walked through, roles you've never rehearsed. The brain reads this as danger. Anxiety spikes, cortisol floods, and suddenly you invent reasons why you're not ready. Failure, though painful, is predictable. You know its contours. You can prepare for disappointment, even extract comfort from its familiarity. In a strange way, failure is neurologically safe. Success is not. Cognitive bias adds another layer. Psychologists call it the status quo bias, our tendency to prefer the familiar over change, even when change is better. Fear of success feeds on this bias. Rising threatens to destabilize your entire ecosystem, relationships, identity, expectations, and relationships often reinforce the fear. Notice how friends or family react when someone close achieves extraordinary success. There may be applause, but beneath it often lurks envy, withdrawal, subtle sabotage. Why? Because your success forces them to confront their own choices. Knowing this unconsciously, many dim their light to avoid casting shadows. The cultural consequence is staggering. When whole societies shrink, creativity is stifled, innovation strangled, leadership absent. Instead of visionaries shaping the future, cultures produce spectators who applaud the rare few while secretly resenting them. The masses prefer gossip over greatness because gossip is safe. Greatness is threatening. History repeats this pattern. A handful of individuals dare to defy the fear of success and alter the course of humanity, while the majority live in quiet resignation, convincing themselves that smallness is virtuous. Nietzsche warned of this herd morality, the comfort of blending in. The cost is civilizations that could have soared, but chose to crawl. Zoom back to the individual. Avoid success once, and you shrug it off. Avoid it repeatedly, and you carve grooves in your psyche, habits of retreat, neural pathways of hesitation. Soon, even when opportunity arrives, you no longer see it. The brain edits it out. You become blind to your own potential. Later, when asked why you never chased your dreams, you won't admit, "I feared success." You'll say, "I never got the chance." But the chance came. You just ran from it. This blindness spreads across generations. Children inherit their parents' fears, not through DNA, but through example. If you shrink from success, they will too. If you flinch at ambition, they will learn to flinch. Fear of success becomes hereditary, embedded in culture, reinforced by silence. The most haunting consequence, though, is spiritual. To fear success is to fear becoming the person you were born to be. When you avoid that becoming, a quiet despair grows. You may bury it under busyness, entertainment, routine, but deep down, a voice whispers, "This is not who I was meant to be." That whisper never leaves. It follows you into old age, into your final breath. And here lies the cruel irony. By fearing success, you create the very failure you dreaded. For what greater failure is there than betraying yourself? What deeper tragedy than living safe from risk, but empty of meaning? The unseen consequences, then, are not just missed opportunities. They are missed selves, futures unlived, worlds unborn. The cost is not measured in money or recognition, but in the silent weight of unrealized potential. This is why fear of success is not a private quirk, but a human crisis. And unless you rebel against it, you remain chained, not to failure, but to the illusion of safety. But rebellion is possible. There is a way to break the cycle, to step into the fire instead of shrinking from it. And that rebellion is where we must turn next. You've seen the cost of fearing success: lives half-lived, futures abandoned, generations repeating the same hesitation. The question is, how do you break free? How do you rebel against a fear so deeply woven into your psychology and culture? The first act of rebellion is to accept this. You will never feel ready. Readiness is fear's favorite illusion. Fear whispers, "Wait until you're stronger, wiser, fearless." But that day never comes. Readiness is not the soil of success, it is the fruit. Courage does not precede action, it follows it. But action without perspective collapses. To rebel, you must redefine success. If you imagine it as a flawless end state, you'll shrink beneath its weight. But if you see success as a process, an ongoing act of becoming, it no longer feels crushing. It becomes motion, not monument. History's great rebels knew this. Galileo did not wait for approval before pointing his telescope. Harriet Tubman did not wait for reassurance before leading slaves to freedom. Gandhi did not wait for safety before confronting empire. None of them were ready. They simply refused paralysis. Their rebellion was not only against oppressive systems, but against the hesitation that keeps most people small. And rebellion in your life begins with exposure. Expose the excuses you dress as virtues. How often have you said you're being realistic when you were really afraid? How often have you claimed to be taking it slow when you were retreating? Rebellion starts when you name fear honestly. Psychologically, this means confronting your shadow. Jung taught that the repressed parts of us, our doubts, our shame, even our hunger for greatness, control us in secret. By dragging them into light, you weaken their grip. You cannot conquer fear by ignoring it. You conquer it by facing it fully. Practically, rebellion takes shape in radical but simple acts. Act before you're ready. Publish the work, launch the idea, speak the truth. Readiness is born through action. Abandon perfectionism. Success is not flawlessness, it is progress. Every imperfect step forward is a strike against fear. See responsibility as privilege. Yes, success is heavy, but heavy like treasure, not chains. The burden proves your life matters. Choose solitude over conformity. If rising distances you from the herd, accept it. Better solitude in truth than comfort in falsehood. But rebellion is not only practical, it is philosophical. Success feels like death because it demands the end of the old self. But what if you stop resisting that death? Nietzsche urged amor fati, to love one's fate, even the terrifying parts. To rebel is to say, yes, let the old me burn. On the other side, something greater will rise. Rebellion also means rejecting the conditioning you've inherited. Remember the messages drilled into you. Stay small, don't outshine, be careful. These are not truths, but chains. To rebel is to declare, I will not dim myself for your comfort. My rising is not arrogance, it is authenticity. True humility is not shrinking, it is standing tall without vanity. Another battlefield of rebellion is imagination. Fear thrives because you picture success as catastrophe, loneliness, pressure, exposure. Change the picture. Imagine success as expansion, freedom, contribution. See yourself strengthened, not crushed. Creation begins in imagination, and so does liberation. And remember, rebellion will never feel comfortable. It will feel raw, unsettling, dangerous. That is the sign you are alive. Comfort is the cage you must escape. Fear wants you tame, predictable, small. Rebellion is declaring, I choose risk, I choose growth, I choose becoming, even if it burns me. Here lies the paradoxical gift. Rebellion serves more than you. When you rise, you light the way for others. When you succeed unapologetically, you give others permission to do the same. Your rebellion is contagious. It whispers to those still trembling at their edge, if they can rise, so can I. So how do you break free? By daring when you feel unready, by letting the old self die, by refusing conformity's chains, by turning fear into fuel. Rebellion is not one grand gesture, it is 1,000 quiet refusals to retreat. Each refusal makes you more dangerous to fear itself. And as you rebel, walking into the fire instead of away, you will eventually reach the threshold of the ultimate realization, the deepest truth about success and fear. It is there that everything you've avoided, everything you've resisted, finally reveals its meaning. Imagine this. You finally rebel. You act before you're ready. You send the manuscript, launch the project, step onto the stage. The catastrophe you feared never arrives. Instead, something quieter, stranger happens. You see it clearly. It was never success you feared. It was yourself. The recognition, the responsibility, the spotlight were never the true enemies. What terrified you was realizing how powerful you actually are. Success is only the mirror, and the real terror lies in seeing your true size. Because once you glimpse it, the excuses collapse. You can no longer pretend you are small. Once you know your capacity, you can no longer hide behind weakness. That is why success feels like death. It is the death of illusion. Yet it is also the birth of freedom. Here is the final paradox. Success is not the achievement of something external. It is the revelation of what was always within you. The mountain you thought you were climbing has always been yourself. The summit is not out there. It is in here. But here lies the haunting truth. Most people do not want to know how powerful they are. It is easier to believe you are weak, easier to blame circumstance. Because if you truly knew your strength, you would have to rise. And rising demands sacrifice. William James called this awakening a second birth, a point when a person discovers a deeper dimension of their being. Success, understood rightly, is this second birth. It is the realization that you are not the struggler, not the victim. You are the creator. And creation terrifies because it leaves you with no excuses. Think back. The child you once were, who dreamed without restraint, never doubted your greatness. It was only through conditioning, failure, and conformity that you learned to shrink. Success is not about acquiring something new. It is about remembering what you already carried. And remembrance is what frightens you most. So the ultimate truth is this: you never feared failing. You feared awakening. Awakening is both gift and test. Once you awaken, you cannot go back. You cannot unsee your potential. You cannot unknow your capacity. Every day becomes a burning question: am I honoring who I truly am? This is why success feels heavier than failure. Failure lets you sleep. Success wakes you up. And once awake, every choice becomes sacred. No more hiding, no more drifting, no more pretending. But the burden is not punishment, it is meaning. Viktor Frankl showed that humans can endure anything if they live for meaning. Success, when seen as awakening, does not burden. It dignifies. It forces you to ask, now that I am awake, what will I do with this life? This is the transformation. Success is not accumulation of money, status, applause. Those are shadows. The real purpose of success is expansion, the widening of your being, your influence, your capacity to give. You succeed not just for yourself, but for what your life can offer others. And here's the deepest secret: you were never small. You only lived small. Success is not becoming someone new. It is removing the fear that hid who you already were. The old self does not truly die. It is revealed as illusion. Once the mask falls, you meet your own magnitude face to face. So what do you do with this truth? First, stop running. Stop waiting for readiness. Each time you hesitate, ask, what truth about myself am I afraid to face? Let that question guide you. Second, see responsibility as liberation. Yes, success is heavy, but it is heavy like treasure, not like chains. Carry it as proof that your existence matters. Third, move from self to service. Once awake, success is no longer about you alone. It is about who you can elevate, what you can create, what light you can bring. Your fear fades when you realize your rising was never just yours. It was the world's gain through you. And finally, live as if you are already awake. Don't wait for validation. Don't wait for the applause. The summit is not somewhere in the distance. You are already standing on it. The only question is whether you will look around and claim it. The ultimate truth is simple, though not easy. Success is not a destination, but a revelation. You do not chase it. You uncover it. And the fear you carried all along was never of failure, but of meeting yourself. So now the final question stands before you. Will you keep running from yourself, or will you finally turn, face the vastness within, and claim it? Because success was never out there. It was always you, waiting to be seen. And destiny does not wait forever. The stage is ready, the spotlight already burning. Somewhere deep inside, the self you have avoided all these years is whispering, almost pleading, step forward. Become, do not leave this world without awakening. And yet, even as an awakened soul, you'll need to protect your energy against the countless dangers you will encounter. That is what we will explore in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more of such deep, thought-provoking content.